Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Gentle Art of Crushing It show, where we focus on learning and sharing with our listeners all there is to know about how to create success in our lives. This show stands on the shoulders of giants. Our mission is to empower and inspire our listeners to create the life of their dreams whilst having a blast in the process. Let's celebrate life together. Welcome to the show.
All right, welcome back to the Gentle Art of Crushing It podcast. My name's Randy Smith, and I'll be your host today. And I'm really excited to have Cathy Christen with us today. This is going to be a little bit different podcast than we've done in the past because Cathy is a division manager for Vector Marketing, which is Cutco in Texas. She's also the CEO and founder of Elevated You, which is her coaching business, co-founder of GoBundance Women, which is why I am really excited to have her with us. And finally, she's a real estate investor as well. So Cathy, welcome to the show. So glad to have you here.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. This is exciting. And I love seeing our GoBundance family thrive and the impact that everyone's making. So excited to be able to contribute any way I can.
Awesome. Well, let's jump right in if we can. Cathy, can you give me your perspective or a current assessment on today's market conditions and how you think that might be impacting the passive investor?
Oh yeah, lots happening, right? We have a time of, there's been a lot of economic uncertainty, right? Rising interest rates, inflation concerns, market volatility that I think last year, left a lot of investors feeling a little bit hesitant, right? And I think that the thing is we have to understand that one, uncertainty is always part of the equation, right? Sometimes obviously it's higher than other times. But I think that the key to navigating today's market is to really shift from fear-based decision-making to a mindset really focused on long-term strategy and intentional action, right? And I, as I look at people and as we're coaching and guiding people within our community in GoBundance, as well as, those that I coach outside in the world, and as they look at wealth building, some of the things that I'm always talking about, there are so many fun things short term that you're like, well, I can make money here. But, there's a lot of noise in the media about the economy and whether it's, the recession, market corrections, geopolitical issues. What's important is we have to stay informed, and be able to zoom out and look at the big picture because markets go through cycles. And if you're investing for the long term, short term dips and volatility, they shouldn't deter you, right? And in fact, they often present opportunities. And so it's really important to stay patient because wealth is really built through time in the market, not through necessarily the timing. Yes, sometimes you can hit the timing right, but there's some things we just don't know. It might seem like the timing's great and then things totally shift, right? And so if you have a long-term plan and you're investing in solid assets that align with your goals, you'll weather the ups and downs because you have that long-term, vision. And I think that right now with investing, diversification is probably more important than ever because again, with so much uncertainty, if you're relying on a single asset class, like stocks or real estate, they we don't know what's happening. They can be vulnerable. There's downturns, and so spreading investments across different types of assets, and including stocks and businesses. And right now we have so much opportunity in the AI space, cryptocurrency, the processors, because we're kind of in an industrial revolution, right? Like just like when the internet came out 25 years ago. And so there are a lot of neat things that we can look at right now. And I could go on with other tips, but I'll hand it back.
Yeah, goodness. That was just one question, and I've got like 12 that I want to ask you now.
Are you interested in real estate investing but don't know where to get started or think you don't have the time or money? Are you stuck in your W-2 because the golden handcuffs make it hard to walk away? If this sounds like you, check out impactequity.net and schedule some time to talk with the founder, Randy Smith. Randy went from massive income to leaving his W-2 through passive income, and he can help you do the same. www.impactequity.net.
Well, let's do this if we can, though. Cathy, I'd love to maybe take a step back and tell the audience a little bit more about yourself, other than that very high-level overview that I shared about you when you first started.
Absolutely.
Like, where did Cathy come from? What was that journey like? And how did you become who you are today?
Oh man, Cathy came from not much. So I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment with 6 people in it, a very low income, grew up. I was sharing this the other day with a friend of mine. I'm like, there was just such a warped view of wealth building because I grew up on the lower income side where people said money's the root of all evil. And, you have to work all the time or grit, or you don't have your priorities straight, or, just hearing all these things that really had a lot of conditioning early on that kept me from wealth building because it was bad or money was hard to come by, or, you had to, if you want anything, you just got to work hard for it, right? And there came a point where it's like, there are no more hours in the day to work. How do I scale this, right? And I remember, I worked my butt off from my late teens until about at 24 years old. I had this like quarter of a century crisis. I was like, I'm turning 25. I was so burnt out. I was earning great income. I was approaching $500,000 a year in income at a young age. And it was awful, but because of that early, I don't know that a lot of people understand that your early conditioning and your identity that's created from early on, it really sticks with you until you rewire that. And so it was this like inability to build wealth or hold funds because, I felt like it was wrong to have it, or I felt, and it's different for different people. The story's different, right? But that's kind of how I grew up. And it wasn't until my probably late 20s and really early 30 where the aha came of like more money equals more impact, and being able to really shift that. So I've always been really good at making money, and I was really good at grinding. And I think when I turned 25, 2007, I understood the importance of teams, back end structure, and that if I was to scale and I wanted to double or triple my business, there was literally no way, Randy, I could work 2 or 3 times the hours at that point.
Sure. Yeah.
14-hour days. So there weren't even that many hours to double it, in a day. So I had to understand that it wasn't about me working more hours, but it was about learning how to work through people, proper delegation, and structure, organizational structure. And when we did that, our business continued to grow. But what I also saw was I had more of my time back, and I was able to really enjoy the life I was building and not have to wait to get there, but enjoy the journey, enjoy the process.
I love it. So now, was the business, the Cutco business, is that the business that was growing?
That was my first, that was my.
Okay. So yeah, and I think I shared with you earlier on, like I know Cutco salespeople are like the epitome of salespeople. Like some of the best salespeople in the world, if you go back far enough, you find that they spent some time at Cutco.
Yeah.
And I've met a handful of folks that have made a full-time career out of it. So it's interesting to hear that you were in that arena as well. You're 25, you're absolutely crushing it, but you're absolutely exhausted and probably about to lose it. You find systems, process, tools, so you can start to scale even more. Were those provided to you through the Cutco organization, or how did you find that? How did you have that aha moment? Okay.
Mentors and coaches. Yeah. So
Perfect.
I was at the point where I was like, I just don't love my life right now.
Yeah.
And I found a coach through my church, actually, that I was a mentor that I really admired. And he was a professional coach as well. He was an integral part of my life, in that year in 2007, and just helping guide through and just getting refocused on what was important to me. What did I want to build, what I wanted to look like. And then looking at my actual business and saying, okay, if I'm going to be a true business owner and be a CEO, not just a CEO, but just an owner, who reports to me, right? Like how many people report to me? What's the hierarchy look like? Looking at that org structure, and what would be if I could wave a magic wand, what would that be? And then taking steps towards that. And that was huge, and I know that obviously we know in GoBundance the magnitude of just community and mentorship and accountability, but to have great mentors and coaches, like you can get free help for sure. And I think that there's something about, for me, once I paid for someone, it's like, I need to take advantage of everything they say. I need to implement everything they do because, I wanted to get the biggest ROI on my investment. And it really changed my world.
Yeah, I think it's such a good point. I know, like, you're saying some verbiage that I hear from other folks like T. Harv Eckert or Tony Robbins. This whole idea of like the money thermostat and the money mindset and how you have to shift that because we're raised with, all of the limiting beliefs that you mentioned. Money doesn't grow on trees and you got to work hard to get it. And people that make money are bad people and all of those different types of things. So I'm curious what type of early mentors, maybe before you had the 25-year quarter life issue. How did you start to shift some of those perspectives yourself? Because clearly you don't go from, living in a 2-bedroom with 6 people to making $500,000 a year as a salesperson with those same beliefs. So something had to happen in that time period. Were there some critical moments there?
I think that for me, I saw so much pain around me, Randy, and I saw the struggles that my family had being poor and the fights around money and not being able to pay for things that I think that by the time I was in my late teens, like high school, I knew what I didn't want. I was very clear.
Sure.
I'm like, I do not want this or this or this. And I just worked really hard to set myself up. I was like, if I can just create opportunities for myself, if I can just create, and I worked hard in school, I was able to graduate valedictorian. I was able to get a full ride almost for my university. I went to a private university and had most of it covered. And, for me, and it was still that track, by the way, of the get a good job, go to college, get a good job, and it was there where I started Cutco and I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and started understanding. And so it was that shifted like, oh, wait a second. Like, I don't know that I want to do this 9-to-5 deal, when I graduate college. And so by 20, I was pretty clear that I was going to stick to this path and I wasn't going to get a secure job after graduation like my mom wanted me to.
Sure.
I was going to pursue entrepreneurship, and I said, I'm going to just really go all in. I opened what would be like a franchise with Cutco and had my own headquarters down in South Florida and built that and scaled that and then opened different offices. And, today I oversee, 16 offices, in 2 months and continues to grow. And it's really exciting to see that. But it was, it was a decision and I had to go against the grain because all of my family and my mom, my dad was the only one who was like, hey, it's risky, but if you put your mind to it, I know you can do anything. And so I always had that support, even though my mom is like, what's wrong with you? Tell her this is not okay. She's not going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think my siblings, I'm the oldest of 4. So my siblings seeing that and seeing the success, really followed suit in their own ways, right? Like they still had the security aspect, but they understood I'm not secure. And I'd always tell them, anyone can fire you at any time. It's their company, not yours. Like if you work harder, it doesn't mean you're going to get a raise, And so a lot of those things started clicking for them where on the side, they started investing, starting side hustles, putting away money. Today my siblings are all millionaires. We're, completely broken the poverty curse of our family. And it's just so neat to see that. And, and that came from, you mentioned Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins was huge. Me reading his books early on, cassette tapes.
Yeah. Yeah.
2 decades ago. And, and myself attending Tony's programs early on, sending my siblings to attend, being able to then, even when my husband and I got married in 2017, our first year of marriage, this could be silly to some people, but we're very growth oriented. And we're like, all right, like our honeymoon, we decided to do the entire mastery program in 2017. We went through all of Tony's programs and
Love
then
it.
we did the wealth and health and wealth in Fiji, and then just extended that 2 weeks between Fiji and Australia. And that was like our honeymoon year.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So you guys were both all in this space. That's fantastic. So, okay. So like you had huge success. I'm in your mid-20s. You get married. You're doing tons of mindset stuff. And now it looks like you're kind of spreading your wings beyond the Cutco umbrella and you're doing your own thing. So what are you doing today? Like, what are you providing to the market?
Absolutely. So probably about 15 years ago, I started helping people start businesses outside of Cutco. So I had been coaching people for a while. And what happened, and this happened organically because these students were graduating college and now starting their medical practice or engineering firm or chiropractic practice or, real estate office. And they're like, hey, Kat, can you help me get my business plan together for this? Hey, can you help me? And then we'd help launch their company and, we had our pay structure. And then they'd say, oh, my aunt wants to start a boutique. Would you be able to help her too? And so it was really just word of mouth for a while. And we didn't officially make it a thing until about a decade ago when we started our consulting company. And really our world, we started for 15 years, I've been helping people start businesses. Then it shifted to helping people scale businesses. And really the last 7 years, my focus has really been helping owners truly be an owner and making sure that their back-end systems, culture, teams are rock solid so that the business thrives, without them being at the helm. So that's really my area of expertise in business is systems, processes, team, and culture so that things operate even better when the owner's gone. And then obviously the sales component. I mean, I've been a sales trainer for 23 years. So
Sure.
I also provide, for companies that need help with sales or sales teams or sales processes. We also are able to help them in that capacity.
I love it. So you've seen kind of full spectrum from being a solopreneur, growing a business in Cutco, and then helping people really through the many different stages of solopreneur up to actual small business entrepreneur to large scale business. So I'm curious, selfishly, like where do you see, or are there certain things that you see solopreneurs doing before they hit that hockey stick moment and really start to grow and explode? because that's where I am. Entrepreneur, I have some VAs, we're doing some things, but we're really trying to create the systems and the tools to create a scalable, sustainable business.
Yes.
So I'm curious, are there things there that I should really be looking for or watching out for at this stage?
Yes, yes. Oh, I love that you asked this question. Yes, some of the things you shared already. I think first thing is really looking at, okay, my business, when it is completely an adult stage, whether that's 3 years from now, 5 years or more, when it is adult stage and I can literally be traveling around the world, 365 days a year if I want to, and be able to check in what does that look like and being really clear on that business structure. So is it one person that reports to you, Randy? And this is for anyone listening, like who reports to you? What department heads do we have? And really being able to look at that. Because right now it might be okay where, okay, this VA is covering these 2 tasks, this VA is doing this, but knowing eventually here's where I want to be. And then looking at each of those departments or roles that you'll want once, because it's like, as you hit different metrics, you have a little bit more money that you want to reinvest into the business, right? And you keep going. Like one of our members and rock stars in our community in GoBundance, Rachel Gainsborough, Dr. Rachel, I remember when she started, when she started with us and she was working as a pharmacist and then transitioned from that and then starting to build. And I remember 3 years ago, helping with, okay, we got to do this. You need to get these assistants. And now I'm looking at her roster and she's like, oh my gosh, I did everything. You're saying now I have like 10 people on my staff and we've got this and the podcast team, where before she was the podcast team and she was this and she was that. But she had clearly defined all the different roles she was eventually going to need and want. And for the meantime, she was running all of them or most of them, and her assistant was running this. But the next thing is looking at each of those roles and going, okay, what type of person? What personality traits, what skill sets do they need? What, I love looking at inner wiring and just whether you use DISC or, there's a lot of personality tests. I like things that are really based on values. And so I use something called core values index. It's a little bit deeper. And knowing that, because then, you have the right person in the right seat. Too many times I see business owners going to scale and they just like, oh, they seem great or they seem great. But if they're not aligned to the type of task they're going to need to do, they might be great when you hire them, but they are going to slowly or quickly die.
Okay. Yeah.
They're doing a job that's not in alignment. And that's okay for a little while if they know the big picture. And it's like, hey, Randy, I'm your girl or I'm your guy, and I'm going to take care of this for now until we get to blank metric where we then hire this person to take over. That's a different story. But knowing that once you're ready for those hires, what type of people, because when you have the right people in the right bus, oh my gosh, one, it's so fun. And it frees up so much time, but it lets everyone focus on their genius. And it's not like a little, like I've seen 50%, 100%, 200% growth in businesses from year to year, just because of having the right team, the right back end. And really the big thing that a lot of business owners don't do from the get-go, which is so important. You can always upgrade and change it, is document all your processes. And now, shoot, with AI, it's a whole different world 20 years later, because you have like Tango, and you can go on Tango and you can walk through something that you're doing and it captures and creates an SOP and takes screenshots. And now as you're training new people, you have that. We didn't have that before, right?
Right.
And so I think that when I went to scale, that was the biggest thing that I was like, oh my gosh, it's all here. And I didn't have it all documented. So if you are listening to this and you're, an entrepreneur, or maybe you've had your business for 5-7 years and you're ready to get to that next level, the documentation of systems, processes of how you want them is one of the most important things, because it also allows you to like sleep at ease, knowing they're doing it how you want it done versus they create their own thing. And then you jump and you're like, what are you doing? Right. And
Yeah.
you have your process or your methodology or whatever that is. And so record yourself, put videos up. I've heard people, and even today I coach people and like, well, everything I do is just like, I'm talking, like, then throw a video camera somewhere and let it record you. And then throw it in Chat GPT and have it create, an outline and tips and systems, and then go in and edit it, right? So that you can hand it to someone else and they know, oh, this is exactly how Randy likes this done or Kathy likes this done. And it's pretty powerful.
Let me ask you this then. So I'm at that phase where I have VAs that are doing a bunch of different things for me. My corporate background tells me that if I want to hire somebody to do operations, that's probably a 6-figure job, that I'm going to need to be able to provide benefits and all these other things. And I know that, there's this mindset of, you either hire somebody that's already an expert or you hire somebody that's less skilled that shows potential and then train them how to do it. I'm curious your thoughts. Which route do you suggest?
I've talked to Rachel. She did this. Hire college students. That is the number one tip I give people is every single city has, there are universities around. And when you go onto the university website as an employer, you can post a job. And you can say, looking for, operations assistant, whatever, and put the description of what's needed. And you will be blown away by the type of talent that you can get. I mean, these kids are smart as heck. Don't forget, like Facebook was created by a college kid. Like you see all these innovations. Like one of my good friends created his first multi-million-dollar tech company at age 13. Like there are brilliant people out there. And so I think that a lot of times more seasoned individuals can kind of just really put off and go, oh, I don't know about, college kids. I need professional. There are very professional, very smart, very well put together students all around who are looking for mentorship and to really elevate their performance as quickly as possible. And they understand the power of being able to have a mentor, of being and just learning, and being a support. And so I love the fact that you have someone who's hungry, who's malleable and coachable, who wants to get better, who doesn't have bad habits you have to break.
Sure.
And you get to shape and mold. And ideally, you set up a path where they have an opportunity to grow with your company and to even earn a permanent spot. And you can even tie them into part ownership. So they help build like a partner. And so you don't have to fork out 6 figures right off the bat.
Yeah.
You start them at a fraction of that and they have growth, and you give them maybe 1 or 2% of the company, and they help build, and they know once the company gets here, like here's what's going to be available. And that's exciting because now instead of them doing that on their own, they get to do it with you, with mentorship, with systems, with processes, with a proven company, and they have the ability to then make partner eventually. And so I think that's one of the most beautiful ways to do it. And it's a win-win for everyone.
I love it. Great advice. Yeah. And you don't even have to hire full time for people that are saying you probably do better off not hiring full time. So that is amazing.
Well, now, Randy, so many people love the fractional type roles because it allows them to have flexibility to live, to travel. Like more and more the new generations, they want to actually enjoy life. They've seen the older generations just grind. And they're like, I don't know, I want to just have fun. Right.
Yeah.
But there's a balance to it. And so when there's an opportunity to be able to earn a certain amount of income, or part is a base, but the rest is performance, those who want to make more are able to do more and gain more on performance, and then, still be able to have the lifestyle they want to have.
Well, let's shift if we can for a little bit. I want to, because the audience is newer passive investors. So I want to try to kind of lean on you with your expertise being around business owners, entrepreneurs, salespeople. Like how can the newer passive investor find those types of people that are offering investments? Because at the core, when we're investing passively, we're investing in small businesses. So we've got to find the best jockeys, as we talk about. Like, how do you go about finding those superstars, whether it's in acquisitions or investments or coaching, whatever that is? Like, how do you identify them? And what are some tips that we can use to kind of steer our listeners towards using those skills to find those type of people with investment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that to even rewind a little bit from there, I think that there's some basic things, some mindset shifts that have to be there for early investors and aspiring wealth builders, that are lacking. And we can talk about where to look, whatever. But, I think that first, because sometimes, and the reason I say this is they might be looking for a deal, but they're looking at it through the wrong lens, and it can really up for failure. And so I think that, one of the biggest things is the shift from scarcity to abundance, right?
Okay.
That's a barrier that early investors, they have a scarcity mentality, and that there's like not enough to go around, or there's not an opportunity, or the opportunities are limited, right? And there's so much out there. And so that mindset keeps a lot of young investors, that fear-based decision making, it keeps them stuck there. And so when they instead, if they have a shift to like that abundance mindset, realizing that wealth isn't a zero-sum game, and there are endless opportunities to build wealth, and success is not just reserved for a few. Now we can look at things. And so really start by focusing on what's possible rather than what's lacking, right?
Okay.
Because you approach investments from a place of possibility and curiosity, you're more likely to recognize and act on opportunities. I think a second thing that I talk to our guys a lot about is see money as a tool, not a goal, right? And so a lot of people chase money for the sake of having more. And when you're doing wealth building, when you're looking at passive income, it's about using money to really as a tool to create freedom and live aligned, something aligned with your values. And so when you view money as a means to an end, whether that's financial freedom, more time with family, greater impact, whatever it is, you're able to make more intentional investment decisions. Because I have people, which one should I pick? What should I do? I'm like, these are all great. What aligns with you most? What resonates with you most, right? And so it's kind of, and we'll talk about this, creating your buy box, right? And knowing what's there. But part of that is, knowing like, why do I want to build wealth? Is it to retire early? Is it to spend more money with loved ones? It's to travel the world. Because if you have that clear why, it's going to help you make smarter choices and avoid emotional decisions, right?
Yep,
And I mentioned earlier the long-term thinking is so important, because too many young investors are like, get rich quick, and anything that's like, oh, you could do this and you're gonna make money right away. I'm always like, that's like a red alarm. Every time I hear that, it's like, I don't know. Let me take it more here. Like I have some of my kids, from Cutco that are in college. Oh yeah, my buddy told me this. If I invest in this, I'm gonna make and they're all like, whether it's like a coin that they're going to invest in, or it was like this company, or we're going to do this rich quick if you work with this. And it's like, you don't get rich quick. Like, yes, sometimes you make a good investment and you got lucky, just like sometimes you might have been gambling and it hit black and you got lucky.
Right.
But investing is not gambling, like it's strategic decisions, that we put thought into. It's about patience, it's about discipline, it's about the power of compound growth, whether in your finances, in your skills, or in your network. And so really knowing that. So I think that young investors, making sure that we're shifting from immediate returns to long-term impact, and really asking, okay, what small actions can I take today that are going to compound in 5, 10, or 20 years? And a little bit consistently goes very far for a long time. And so I think that, going more towards your question, I think one is investing yourself first. Like, you have to have the knowledge, you have to study, you need some mentorship. And so whether that's a mastermind community, like a lot of the deal flow and things that I found were from incredible mentors, people I trusted and paid a lot of money and saw what they were investing in. And I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then asking them, why are you doing that? And why? What's your plan with that? And why'd you pick that? What's the strategy? And understanding and asking all the whys more so that I understand, so that when I'm making decisions, I can kind of look through Justin's eyes, or look through, one of my best friends, Justin Donald. I don't know if you've heard of The Lifestyle Investor.
Yeah.
So Justin was my first business mentor 21 years ago. He's like a big brother to me, and I love watching him study, and he's like, oh, this has this, and just learning. So whether, like I said, it's being, if you happen to have people around you already, but look at even something simple, young investors, go to your church if you go to church, but then go see, who are the wealthy people in church, and ask them to go to coffee, or can you take them to lunch and ask them questions. How did you build your wealth? How did you make decisions on what to invest in? Why do you invest in this and not that? What do you think about this? And some people even now will tell, because I've asked people like, hey, why are you not investing more into cryptocurrency? Or why are you not investing more in here? And they've been, hey, you know what? I don't really know anything about that. So I'm going to invest in what I know. Right. And I think that's very smart, and also could be, very limiting, because then it's like, all right, well, let's go learn about this, because this is a real thing that's going somewhere. Right. But there has to be education around it. So are you learning from, reading good books, podcasts? And there has to be due diligence, because there are so many people now. And with AI, unfortunately, the bad side is so much content can be put out, so many things. They might not really know what they're talking about. And so what is their track record? I want to see their portfolio. I want to see how many years they've been investing. I want to see like how they make decisions and what are their strategies and why, because that, at first, I think it's okay to pay. Like Justin always would tell me this. He's like, if you're going to pay a professional, pay them to learn from them. That's one of the best pieces of advice he gave me. And early on, I didn't listen to him. I just paid professionals to do it for me. And I didn't know why they were investing in the stocks they did. I didn't know why. I just gave them money and they made me money. And I was like, cool. And there was a point where he's like, ignorance is not bliss. And if you really want to build a strong wealth building habit for a lifetime, you need to understand it yourself. You need to know how to read charts. You need to know how to read the stock market. You need to, and there are classes that, you can pay thousands of dollars for, and they're amazing. But y'all, there are also classes that you can pay hundreds of dollars for.
Sure.
You get connected with. I'm a big believer, big in my faith, and I think about like a church, like one of our church in Austin that we go to. They've been doing a lot of classes, and they actually there's a group going all around the country called Life Search, or a conference. And so if you're of faith, if you're not, I would go anyway because you get cheap classes, but they're teaching people about investing in stock market and real estate and different diversification and just helping get knowledge out there to people, right? And so it doesn't, I used to think like, oh man, I don't have $5,000 to do this class or to work with this person. Like, and my kids would tell me that I mentored, like, Kathy, I don't have money like you to invest in this or that. And I'm like, you know what? There are free classes, there are small paid classes, there's group coaching, and you just go little by little. And as you have a little more and you're ready to level up, asking your mentors, who do you recommend? Who do you mentor with that you think would be my next step? Like, here's my budget, or here's what I'm willing to invest in myself, and here's where I want to get to. And so it's really important too, knowing like if you're trying to really diversify in real estate, the person you want to coach with might be different than the person, well, not might be, will be different than the person who wants to really diversify in the stock market, or the person who really wants to diversify in crypto. Because I have friends who know the stock market inside out and do day trading and options and all the things, but they're not very fluent in the crypto world, right?
Sure.
Because that's been a new arena, I guess, over the past decade or so, but it's still very new. I mean, I guess almost 2 decades, but it's really like, got the buzz now where people are like, oh, this isn't going anywhere. This wasn't
Sure.
like something that popped up and disappeared. Like, this is staying, right? So I think that investing in yourself to really make sure you have the knowledge and skills to understand when you see opportunities, to make sure you know how to manage risk and navigate challenges that'll ultimately determine your success. And I know when I started, I screwed this up. My first real estate
Sure.
I was like so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, the market's hot, all this stuff. But I wasn't looking at trends and I wasn't seeing what was happening. And I just went in because everyone was investing. Everyone was getting short-term rentals. I think about even 4 years ago, it was like STR. And I like went and bought, like 10 STRs. And then it was like, oh, okay. Well, I should have probably diversified markets. I probably should have diversified.
Sure.
Right? And so read books, attend seminars, seek out mentors who have achieved the results that you want. You can even say, hey, I'll work for free for you. Right. And like, that's a great way to learn, is be an apprentice. I can't tell you how many, so many of the most successful people that I know, like that's what they've done. Right. And even myself, someone I want to apprentice with is Jeff Hoffman, who's a he's a billionaire. And I was talking about him the other day and I got a text from him and I was like, oh, because we were supposed to connect last year. I just adore the person he is, how he serves the world, how he gives, how he mentors people. And I had told him a couple of years ago, right before I had my 2-year-old, I said, I'd love to help support the things that you're doing. I'd love to learn from you. I'd love to grow it. And he was like, absolutely, let's do it. And then I had another baby last year, but that's now I'm like, okay, I want to learn from this heart-centered billionaire. Like, I will work for free for him. I will go do whatever to spend a week, a quarter with him and just like see how he does his world. Like, let's do it. Right. So being willing and knowing that like that is an investment of your time that will like multiply itself tenfold. So find the people that are living the life you want to have, or that are investing in the ways and having the results that you want to have, really having it, not just flashing it and then they're not doing well, but knowing where they are so that you can invest in your own development and you'll feel more confident making those investing decisions.
I love it. God, Kathy, this went down directions I wasn't even expecting it would go. So you're just got a ton of energy, a ton of enthusiasm. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
This has been really, really valuable. Thank you so much. So,
and last thing with this, like a practical tip, also I said it earlier, but again, diversify. We are in a very uncertain time in terms of where our world is going and what's happening. And so make sure that when you're investing, like maybe there's a lane you're really excited about, learn about it, go there. But also make sure like something simple like S&P 500, put money in there. That's an easy way, even if you're like, I'm just going to learn about real estate, but also have some stocks. That's an easy way to make sure that's money growing, right? But looking at, other businesses or assets, because this is also a great time to be buying businesses. Like over the next decade, there's so many baby boomers that are retiring, that are closing down shop, that kids don't want to take over the family business. And this is a great time to be snatching some of those up as well.
Awesome. Well, let's do this. Let's jump into the final 5 because I've got 5 questions I still like to ask everybody, even though we're approaching our time limit here. So for passive investors specifically, is there a special resource or book or podcast or anything you would suggest for passive investors to dive in to continue to get educated?
I would actually read The Lifestyle Investor, 10 Commandments of Lifestyle Investing, because that is all about passive investing. It's about how to create investments without creating more jobs. And Justin really breaks down some great tips in there. It's one of the best books I've read on passive investing.
Couldn't agree more. He has a great podcast, great book, and he is like the epitome of the passive investor that has reached a whole new level. So I need to actually, if you mentioned you know him, maybe you can make an intro. I'd love to have him on the podcast. So
Got it. I'm sure he'd be super excited to contribute.
Awesome. All right. So for you personally, what are you reading? What kind of podcast are you listening to? What do you love now?
I am on a whole other realm right now. I am currently reading the book Letting Go. I just finished the Surrender Experiment. My word last year was surrender. I'm a control freak. I like to be in the mix of everything. And
yeah.
The past 2 years, God has blessed me with 2 additional beautiful babies that were not planned or expected. And so
congratulations.
It a lot of life. Thank you. But it has, I just have to let go. So I'm currently in a letting go, being able to surrender, letting the universe do its thing, versus like trying to control every detail.
Yeah.
That's the world I'm in. And this is all seasonal, right? Like before I might have been, there's different books that I think are fantastic, but that's what's happening in my world right now.
I love it. God has got some humor too, doesn't he? Throw you the things that you need the most. Isn't that funny?
And I was like, you won't slow down? All right. Well,
we'll make you slow down. Yeah, exactly. I love it. All right. Now, we talked a little bit about this, but when you're vetting businesses, what type of due diligence questions are you asking?
Okay. So I want to know people that they have done business with. I want to find out any past partners that they might have worked with. I also can look to see like any past, not just partners, but maybe people that were vendors. Like, are these people, do they pay on time? Are they reputable? Because how you treat someone to me is kind of how you treat everyone. And if they're cheating out vendors or not fully paying them when they finish a job or something's happening, like that's someone that has a little bit of shady in them, not someone I want to invest in. For me, ethical, honest, super important. So checking those things. And after last year, we had an investment where some things happened. Now I was like, I actually want to see financials and check with a bank as well. Like that's my new thing I'm adding, where I didn't before. I'd ask it, but I didn't like actually check it. Where if I'm going to go into a deal with someone or I invest in someone, I really want to know what the financial track record, I want to know from the bank, like, is this someone that really is on top of their stuff, or are they just talking the talk, or are they actually walking it?
Fantastic. Great questions. In a different perspective than what I hear from other folks that are in this space. So thank you. That is really, really valuable. I really like the vendor piece because I agree. Like how you do anything is how you do everything, and how you treat someone is how. I love that. So thank you for that. Okay. Now a couple of questions that are kind of fun to finish this off. So we learn a little bit more about you. And coming from GoBundance women, you'll like this question. So is there a recent bucket list item you've checked off your list, or one you hope to in the near future?
Yes. Oh my gosh. We're very blessed to have done a lot, but I would say one of the things that I actually always had on my list, which I thought I was never going to do, is kind of random, is I wanted to have 3 kids. And I thought that was not in the cards, and God gave me my 3 kids.
Wow.
I've got that. And this next year we are getting ready. In a year from now, a year and a half, we pushed it back a little bit because of my daughter that was just born 6 months ago. But we are going to be taking off as a family and traveling for at least a year. That's our next bucket list, and homeschooling the kids as we travel around. So I'm really stoked for that.
Well, where else can you do something like that unless you're an entrepreneur that has curated the life that you have? So congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
All right. Final question. This is the money question. So if you had $100,000 you had to invest today and you couldn't put it in one of your own deals, where would you?
Buy a boring business. I would be looking at Cody Sanchez's roster and seeing what businesses she has for sale, seriously. And whether it's her, I know Alex Hormozy is doing stuff with acquisition.com, like whatever. And I wish I got paid to promote them, but I don't. But that is where I would be, because there are so many boomers that have built businesses and they are going to be retiring or, just shutting down because they don't want to run the business anymore. And the family might not want it. And so I would be digging in. And that's a great community, Contrarian Thinking. I love her community. I've been a part of it. We know her well. She's, just one of our old school GoBundance women, and we absolutely love Cody and support her with everything. And so I would say like her, we have a handful, probably more like a dozen now, but at least a handful that are currently in her mastermind from GoBundance and have bought businesses, have bought multiple businesses. So there's a lot of great guidance, mentorship every step of the way. So if you're like, I don't even know what to do to buy a business, like that's a great community, very affordable, and they will help you get your money back. If you're serious, you'll get that money back real quick.
Any boring business segments that you're excited about? Exciting, boring businesses? Yeah.
Yeah, we were looking at, some of the main ones that people keep like car wash and dry cleaning, but we were really looking at if we're going to continue, and we're making some decisions right now in our portfolio in terms of where we'll be. But if we're going to really continue building and doing land development and going through that, really looking at some of those businesses that serve that. And so we're like, well, we want to have a cleaning company to help, or when we're doing construction that they can like clean the sites or go through. We want to have our own. And so that's like, look at a sector you like, and then what are the things that support it, where you might want to own that business versus pay out, right? I had a client of mine and he does events and loves throwing events, and he has an event space. And then eventually he just bought out the company that rents the chairs and has all the equipment. And then he bought out a florist company that he now owns the florist company. And so these vendors he used to pay, he now owns those vendors. So think about it like that.
Yeah. Look at your P&L and look at your biggest expenses and see where you can go wide. Very good. Very good. Well, Kathy, this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed, like I said, I love the enthusiasm. I love the energy and excitement. And clearly you're going to do amazing things even while you're traveling the world for the next year or so. But thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Randy. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. To our audience, as always, we encourage you to continue that education journey. And more important than that, make the decision to make your first or your next passive investment. I am convinced that once you do, you will just wish you had started that much sooner. So be sure to join us again next Thursday for another great episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And thank you again for joining us today.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It. It was an amazing episode. We know we sure learned a lot, and we hope you did as well. We want to take a second and thank you so much for viewing or listening to this episode. And please just know that we only ask for one favor, and that is to make this life magnificent. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.